Hey everybody, it's world-famous comedian Tom Papa. Make sure you go to tompapa.com for my upcoming tour dates and follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Tom Papa so we can be even better friends. Today, I would like to share with you some of my interview with my good friend comedian Jim Gaffigan. This was recorded for Come to Papa on Sirius XM, and he came over to my apartment in New York because we're both lazy and didn't want to go to the studio. We had a swell time together, and I hope you enjoy it. Me and my good buddy, Jim Gaffigan.
Come to Papa.
Welcome, dear listeners, to Come to Papa. I'm here with my good friend and hilarious comedian, Jim Gaffigan.
It's an honor to be here, Tom, and I'm glad you brought back the name Come to Papa.
Thank you, yeah. It was my failed sitcom. I'm like, it was only on for 4 episodes. Jim is one of the most popular stand-up comedians working today, selling out theaters around the country. As a regular on The Late Show with David Letterman and Comedy Central specials and platinum-selling comedy albums. I want to know how many.
Platinum, that means like 5,000, I think.
Is it?
No, I don't know what it means.
It's got to be a lot. Jim quickly gained the reputation as a premier comic to audiences and comedians alike. Whenever I say alike in these intros, it feels like I'm writing someone's bio.
It's interesting. What is, do you, like the bio thing, like whenever you'll see like a Google alert about a bio,
yeah.
You're always like, really? They use that bio?
I know, that old thing.
That one, they're like, he's also going to be doing 20 episodes of Pale Force. I'm like, what is that, 10 years ago?
He'll be in Jonathan Katz.
In this new show called Dr. Katz.
Right, exactly. Well, mine are better. Jim also acted in scores of TV shows and movies and just completed a run on Broadway in that championship season. Jim, we started out around the same time here in New York, and when you walk into sold-out clubs, theaters rather, and you're on tour, and whenever you like enter through the back of those theaters and those buildings, how much of the time are you thinking about me and what I meant to your career?
Well, it's a lot of thinking about you and kind of evaluating how much more hair I have than you.
We are very close.
Are you at the hat stage where you have to wear a hat?
You know what? You came in today.
I think you've got
wearing
some of the Italian in there.
I have a whole bunch of hats.
You got that Northern Italian. You got to go hat, and then there's the baseball cap. Not to say that I'm not white trash and a child, but I made the switch from baseball cap to the I'm not John McEnroe's great grandfather, but I could look like it.
I do the same thing. I was baseball cap forever, and now I'm just fancy hats.
Well, there's also baseball caps. Baseball caps are just way too much of a conversation piece.
Right, exactly.
It's like Yankees. How'd they do today? I have no idea.
I'm just losing my hair.
Hey, Yankees. And then I did the Dennis Leary, I Love Boston show.
Oh, right.
Where they give you all this Boston gear, and I was like, hey, a hat that actually fits my gigantic melon. But it was a Boston Bruins one, and far too much conversations about it
hockey
in New York City. It's like, I don't play hockey. I don't know. And they're like, why are you wearing the hat?
I like the hats. And, I wear the fedoras and stuff in the winter.
Yes. You can pull that off.
Yeah, I really like them. You could.
Maybe.
You just have to kind of just start doing it.
If I was in the role of Tip O'Neill, I don't know.
Clint Eastwood was just filming Hoover.
Yes.
And I was like, well, they've got to cast me because I wear those hats all the time.
Right.
Thinking like the casting guy's going to know that. But when I walked in, I didn't just throw it on my head.
Clint Eastwood is more productive in his 80s than I've ever been in my life. It's like,
no.
It's like, I'm 83. I just completed 3 films.
And I'm writing 2 more.
El Camino. And I'm writing the song for all of them. And then I'll sing it. And I'll have my son arrange the music because he's a pain in the ass. I put my daughter in a couple of films. Now, you're friends with Clint Eastwood, aren't you?
We're not really friends. I thought we were. I did a charity thing in Sun Valley, and he was in the audience.
Because you got me a gig from that, didn't you?
Yes. Did I?
Because he owns a country club, right?
Right. He owns, yeah. Oh, no, you mean the one at Bacara?
Not Baccarat. He owns like a golf course.
A golf course, Tehama. Tehama or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
it's like, and I was like, wow, well, obviously Clint Eastwood's not going to be here. So I was sitting in the office because, when you're a comedian, you always get there and your room's not ready. So you're like, you can just sit here like a schmuck for 4 hours.
Right.
And so I was sitting there furious. And which I am most of the time,
Right.
And
In Carmel,
and Clint Eastwood walks in, and like I just told the lady, I'm like, look, I've been traveling all day. If I could just go in hey Clint, how you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never gonna be cast in one of his movies.
The toughest man in the world walks in as you're like, I'm really tired.
I'm tired. Is there a coffee maker in my room? Gee whiz! Oh,
I need to nap before I tell my jokes.
I need to nap.
Is there a problem?
No. Hey,
Are you the show? Are you the comedian? He took me up there to do a couple gigs for his wife's charity, and then he took me up there. And I have a lot of great stories about him bringing me around, and we're like palling around and stuff. But one of my favorites was when I did a show at his Mission Ranch, where his hotel thing is.
Yeah.
And is that where you did it? Was it there?
I think so.
And it's the show's over. It's all dark, and there's his little piano bar next door where he plays piano, and there's a restaurant and stuff. And they said the restaurant's closed. I said, well, can I get some food somewhere? And then Clint comes over. Is there a problem? I'm like, yeah, I just want to get some food. He's like, oh, I'll have him open the kitchen for you. So we go walking across. This is like my best showbiz moment ever. Yeah. We're walking across the cinder driveway, just me and Clint, just like cowboys, like in the cinders. And he says to me, you know that joke you tell about drooling at night on our pillows and how our pillows look like a Civil War bandage? I'm like, yeah. I think about that every night. I was like, oh, forget it. I can retire now.
Wow. And then he made you dinner.
And then they're going to say, and then he made love to you. Yeah, then he made me dinner and sang at the piano.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Did you have a good time doing that gig?
Doing
the Clint gig?
The Clint gig? I love corporate events.
I do too.
Because they're just an exuberant or a gigantic amount of money.
Right.
And it always feels like you're entertaining people that have been in like a business school prison where they haven't been entertained. They're like, oh my gosh, you actually were funny. You're like, what kind of comedians have you been exposed to prior to this?
I know.
They're like, well, last year we had a guy who just threw darts at us. I'm like, what happened?
Right. We had an improv group
Yeah.
that was doing stuff about our copy system.
It's always fun when you do a corporate event where you follow someone who's incredibly filthy. They're like, we had Tracy Morgan here last year for our Bible study convention, and it didn't work out. It's like, have you ever read an article in your life? Yeah, that Kathy Griffin, she didn't like this conservative group of accountants.
I know. It's really true.
Who's booking this?
They don't even evaluate you on whether you did a good job or not at the end. They're just like, oh, God, you didn't drop F-bombs the whole time.
Thank God you weren't anti-Asian. You're like,
right.
Who are you hiring for these?
I know. They are really fun gigs. And all you have to do is come out, because they're so locked into their little business. If you come out and say anything, like you make fun of their name tags, and they're just like, whoa, he said it. We all thought it.
He did it. He would be crazy in the lunchroom.
Right.
Yeah.
So congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you.
Number 4.
Oh, my God.
Holy cow. Yeah. I can't believe it.
4.
But, it so is strong.
It's provided some material, but...
Are you writing more about them?
I'm writing. I'm changing my name to Ray Romano. And these kids are hard. No, but
how can they not? I mean, they just
it's such chaos, and you don't have time to think about anything outside of that.
Right.
Really.
4. What made you go for a 4?
I don't know.
You just like the big tribe. You didn't grow up.
I'm one of 6.
Oh, you are.
And my wife's one of 9. And we have a 2-bedroom, so it made sense. I don't know. It's like we've always been open to babies, and but it's one of those things where I am thrilled. You know, he's a great guy, but everything's fine except for I'm just a little terrified. I don't want to be poor. That's my whole thing.
Poor is
and
bad.
I don't want my kids to be like, yeah, you can't do soccer camp because I can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Right. Or
we're
to afford everything, you just have to be gone all the time.
Right.
Right.
Or, do something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like be nice to people.
Right.
Be polite.
I'll go do a corporate gig and you'll be in the audience. Yeah, I had to support my kids.
I'm now at accountants. No, so there is something, I think
it's expensive for children.
It's expensive, and I think comedians, we kind of aspire a certain amount of freedom and a nomadic lifestyle, and there's an enormous amount of responsibility. And I'm somebody who, oops, forgot to brush my teeth, and now I'm in charge of feeding people, like 4 of them. See, like when you have 2, your wife can handle your 2 daughters, and it's fine.
Yeah. Totally.
See, my wife can, she could probably handle 4, but not at this point.
Right. Not with a baby.
So even with help, I'm contributing way too much. I'm helping way too much.
I know. I have to admit, when we were deciding, do we keep going after 2, it was like, if we have one more, it's going to start coming into my side of the responsibility.
Yes.
I'm like, let me just keep it at this because it seems manageable. It's hard.
It's particularly if you want them to do things like camp. And
then you got to go drop them off everywhere.
You got to drop them off. You got to pick them up. You got to. Then I end up thinking of things why I don't have to pick them up. It's like I'm doing this interview with Tom Papa, so I can't do that.
Yeah, no, it is. It becomes like a battle of time and energy
and guilt.
Guilt. Yeah.
Like, all right, I could stay up writing. Or I could be a dad.
But it's hard. Like in the morning, like a lot of times at night, if I'm like, you know what? I'm the comedian. I'm gonna stay out late and do this, or I'm gonna write late.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You end up suffering because I can't. When I hear them get up at 6 or 7 and start running around, I'm up. I can't be like, nah, I'm going back to sleep.
Well, I think that some of that is when a guy gets older, they can't sleep like they used to. You know that, right? No, seriously. The thing that helps men sleep consistently, they lose it when they get around 40.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding. That's why really old people can't sleep.
That's why they're up all the time?
Yeah, it's a chemical. That's why
Really?
That's why people take melatonin. That's why.
Are you taking melatonin?
I'm not kidding. No, not yet.
I can't fall asleep lately. I can.
Oh, really?
Once I'm asleep, but I can't. I'm having trouble falling asleep.
I'm somebody who could sleep for 12 hours, but I haven't in a long time. But even if you stay up till 3, say you're driving back from a gig or something, and you stay up till 3, even if you sleep till 10, that's not enough sleep.
No, because you've been up to because you saw 3 on the clock.
I'm a believer in naps.
I
like
napped.
The naps.
Me
That's
too.
one advantage of babies. It's like and little kids.
The babies.
You know what? I'm gonna take this one for a nap.
Right.
It's like I'm gonna take this one for a nap. That's me helping.
You know what? I've changed so I can still get my naps. Now that the kids are a little bigger and don't nap, I changed it to meditating.
You've meditated.
Well, I don't really, but I tell her I'm meditating.
Yeah, I'm going to meditate.
It sounds more important. It's like, well, I've got to let him. He's meditating.
He's meditating.
He's not lazy. He's spiritual. Right.
It's too exhausting.
But now your act is you write all your stuff. You're not a improv-y kind of a guy. So you do a lot of work on the writing end. How's that changed now with 4 people and 17 people in your shoe?
17 people in one room. I don't know. It's a fluid motion. I've always been, you've got that Carlin thing up there. Like he used to record things and then he'd rewrite it. He'd record his sets and then he'd underline it with red where the punch words were and all that. And I used to do that, and lately I don't have any time to do that.
Right.
So there's I used to have this come up with an idea, talk. Jeannie and I write everything together, and then we would talk about it.
Right.
And then I would get on stage, and then sometimes I would be inspired, and I'd riff a little bit.
Right.
And then I would go back and rewrite, and
Listen to
I have
your
horrible
sets and-
grammar, and I'd talk like, and stuff like that. So I'd have to take all that crap out.
Right.
And then I would try it again. And
Wow.
is that what you do?
I do. Yeah, I listen.
You just go up there and talk. And
I've never done the same set twice.
I've never, just let it loose, man. Just live organically. Just don't make people laugh.
You're right. I'm really just about shocking people.
Yeah,
I want to make them think.
I'm going to go up there on a skateboard next time.
No, I do. I record all my sets.
Yeah.
And then if I know I said something that I didn't write before, then I'll listen to it.
Right.
And rewrite and rewrite.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll remember something that I said on a previous set when I'm on stage.
Yeah. Isn't that the weirdest thing?
And I'll be like, oh, how did I say this last time?
And you're just like, I hope it comes out the same way. And then it kind of does.
It is strange how you can have a comic idea and then you get on stage and it comes together.
Yeah.
That's where there is, the improving going along.
Right. When all of a sudden you start finding it up there.
Yeah.
What I would like to be able to do, and I never seem to be able to, is go up with less. Like I'll really get like an idea and then kind of flesh it out in my head and then go up with it. But like just to have a small idea and go up and let it happen more.
Yeah.
Do you do any of that?
Some, but there's always I haven't been able to, I have this stuff about the new baby but then when I try to just kind of riff off a topic, if it's not flowing,
right,
then you're just like, hey, I hate the dog shit on the sidewalk. And people are like, yeah. And you're like, well, that's all I got.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I just remember Chappelle used to, I think he used to think of ideas and then just go up and talk about them and just get standing ovation.
Right, for like 2 hours.
So
I know. There are those guys.
That.
Eddie Izzard kind of works that way. Like you'll hear he just rents out a theater and for like a month, a small space, and writes on stage. He just does it on stage every night. Never writes stuff down. One of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I don't
kind of resent that.
I do too. It seems like it'd be less work during the day.
There is something, but and Louis Anderson told me that he never wrote anything down.
Really?
Like those first two specials, he never wrote anything down.
Jeez.
But I think, to be fair, there are definitely people that have such a gift of that, but
right.
I don't know. I think that Eddie Izzard, there must have been some organization going on.
There is, for sure.
Right. There must have been some all right, I'll do this bit, then this bit.
Right.
But
yeah, they may be doing it on stage, but they're going through the same process.
Right.
They're just not looking at the words in a pad.
Yeah, I'm very. I try to be over organized because I don't want. Because I remember when I started, there was this guy Lee Frank. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah.
But Lee Frank, I was looking at my notes and he goes, "Dude, the material is just for when you're not feeling funny." And I remember thinking, but.
What?
This is not 1981 where people laugh at anything anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're not going to surprise them.
But there is something, there's nothing funner than coming up with a new bit on stage.
Oh, it's the greatest.
It's the best.
But I don't know. You kind of have to do all the other work for that to happen. Yeah.
I think it was Thomas Edison who said it.
No, you and your wife, you say you write all your stuff together?
Yeah, well, it's really ended up like that. We've done so many things together.
Wow. How long have you been together?
10 years.
10 years.
And initially I was like, yeah, thanks for the idea, but no. And then she was coming to so many shows, and she is funny, and I feel as though I brainwashed her to my comedic point of view.
Right.
So she's somebody always there for tags and to say, you're slurring your words.
Really?
When I'm drunk. No. There's certain things where you'll see a comedian do a joke and then you'll see him do it again or her do it again, and you'll be like, oh, they're dropping this one phrase.
Right.
But yeah, there's been a lot of, we do sessions where we talk about something like.
Really?
like that bacon chunk. We were sitting there just like, more bacon jokes. What other bacon jokes are there? We got to get a bacon joke.
That's amazing. That's such a cool thing.
It evolves, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure your writing evolves too. You're like, all right, you want to sit there and go, how did I come up with that bit? Was I sitting or standing?
Right.
But there's a little bit of, you just kind of rummage around through the trash of ideas.
But to have another person do that, I mean.
It's great. Well, your wife is a comedian.
My wife's a comedian, and we kind of reached the opposite point where I would say something that I knew was funny. I would be writing, and I would come up with a joke that I knew was funny, was going to work, and I would say it to her, and she would be like, "Nah,
right,
I don't see it," and wouldn't. And I mean, it wasn't her job to work on it, but I just felt it was like I literally said out loud one day, "I'm not saying anything to you anymore. I'm going to let the audience decide," and because the audience would laugh and think it was good more times than not, and she would. If I listened to her, I never would have gotten to the stage. So it almost got to, and she's really funny. Like if I'm doing a set, she can come and like if I'm getting ready for Letterman or whatever, she'll come in then. Yeah. But as a working process,
it's very strange.
It is.
I mean, believe me, there's plenty of arguments. There's plenty of Jim, that's not funny, and I'm like, nah, it'll work. You know, it's
right.
Like she'll say like. There's no logic behind that, and I said the logic is that it's funny just because it's absurd,
right?
And so then when you start tearing comedy apart, then it's really bad. Anyway, so.
Yeah, but that is such a cool. I mean, because I love when you're around a comedian that likes to talk about jokes. Yeah, you know, and like I'm working on this, and you kind of go back and forth. So to have that in your house all the time. It's got to be pretty cool.
It is. You know, it's strange, but it feeds a certain amount of insecurity in a comedian. You know, you do comedy for so long. Right. And initially, when you're at an open mic, every comedian learns that you can't turn to someone and go, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
Right.
You learn not to do that.
Yeah.
And now I'm. You know, because I've interacted and co-written so much with Jeannie, now there'll be like a nanny there from Bhutan, and I'll be like, let me tell you this joke. And she'll be like, oh, Jim, that's funny. Don't fire me. You know, so
you want me to say it's funny?
But it's pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
It's also, you know, you learn these rules or, you know, these structural ideas for a joke. Right. And I'll explain them to Jeannie, or I explained them to her like 7 years ago, and now she'll explain them back to me.
Oh, really?
She'll be like, well, you can't do that. Why don't you just invert it? And I'm like, you're right.
That's pretty amazing.
It's good.
That's amazing. What's so great about your act is that you have such signature stuff. Like you have bits that really, really resonate with people and stuck around. It's not like, oh, Jim's just funny.
And ended my career.
And ended your career. If I was Lipton doing the Actors Studio, it'd be like, and then Hot Pockets. Is it a constant quest to get back to Hot Pockets?
It's a blessing and a curse.
Is it?
It really is.
Really?
It's opened a lot of doors, I think.
Yeah, it was huge.
And allowed me to do theaters, I think. It was a big influence in that.
Right.
But it's also, my Twitter feed. Every other comment is Hot Pockets. It's like, hey, it's your birthday. Have a Hot Pocket. I did this video with Todd Glass where he played the Hot Pocket person that just says Hot Pocket to me all the time. Right. Which I thought was funny. And we did that like 2 years ago. And so there's a certain point where Jeannie and I are like, well, hey, it's, we refer to it as Hot Pocket. It's like if we're at a 4th of July thing. Yeah. And people are going to start coming up to me going, hey, are you the Hot Pocket guy? Hot Pocket? I'll say it's a little Hot Pocket here. So, but it's
the room is Hot Pocket. Yeah, there's too many Hot Pocket hanger-ons.
It's strange because there's also
it's so funny.
You've done specials. You do a special and you want to move on. Right. And then part of me is like, well, what's the, I do an encore, I do the Hot Pocket thing. Right. But there is a piece of me that dies every time I do the joke.
Your encore is always Hot Pocket?
Yeah, I mean,
really?
right now. And it's so weird because I'm on, I don't know what hour this is, but it's been a new hour for like a year, right? And then I'll end with Hot Pockets, and then people will, go on Twitter or Facebook, and they go, it was a lot of new material, but he mixed in some old stuff, and I'm like, it was all new material except for the Hot Pocket thing.
Which you made me do.
Yes. So...
That's funny.
It's strange.
It really is strange. Yeah, it is flattering. I mean, that's really that's like a hit song.
It's very flattering.
Yeah.
It's a lot of luck.
Yeah.
You could just get a bit, and it just kind of it just covers a lot of demographics.
Right.
And it's weird.
It just hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people people will treat me like other people in the entertainment industry or comedians will treat it as if it was part of some grand evil plan. Well, you got the Hot Pocket thing. And I'll be like, what do you mean I got the Hot Pocket thing?
Right.
Like I'm like a scientist. Well, if I figure out what their dietary habits are.
Put it in joke form.
Put it in joke form.
Add
a silly voice. Make a comment on the jingle. Bing, bing.
Yeah.
We've solved the problem.
As if you're just not doing that now with another topic.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when I was at Caroline's a million years ago, and Vic Henley was emceeing. And I first did some of the Hot Pockets jokes. And I got off stage, and I was like... and Vic was like, that's funny, man.
Right.
And I go, but Vic, you and I are white trash. We're the only ones that even know what Hot Pockets is. Like it used to be where it was a joke that didn't work in New York.
Really?
Yeah, because people in New York were like, we're not going to eat Hot Pockets.
Right.
But now it's everywhere.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did the Hot Pockets people like you?
Yeah, I mean, they really liked it. They used to have... people, they would have a guy dressed like a Hot Pocket outside of theater shows, passing out coupons.
No.
Swear to God.
Without talking to you?
Without talking to me.
They would just show
up.
Then
people thought that it was my idea.
Oh.
So we had to tell them to not do that anymore. Please.
I'd love to be in that little board meeting. Here, I have an idea. Let's dress Don up.
Well, someone sent me an email saying that they did a survey of whether the Hot Pocket thing made people want to buy Hot Pockets or not. And this person was like, I was part of the survey. And I've gotten like secret emails from like assistant brand managers going,
really?
I mean, now I don't get emails because people are crazy. And
did it help them? Did it?
I think it did.
The result was people were eating more Hot
because
Pockets.
it's Hot Pockets are not, caviar. It's just something to feed your face, right?
Right. Hot Pockets, holy cow!
Yeah, it's brutal.
I always talk about this when we're just kind of hanging. Whenever I see you, because I love the days when we were first starting out here in New York, and especially that Del Soma's, that Italian restaurant where it was in the theater district. Remember, it was like the theater district, and then we went downstairs, and there was like this. There was like a Sam Brown used to run it, and there was that glittery like cabaret room curtain, and we did like for one summer we did like shows there like for like a month straight.
Yeah,
and it was me, you, Geraldo, Sam Brown, sometimes Sandy Marks. Do you don't remember these shows?
It's amazing because I have no recollection.
That's so funny.
But I remember. I mean, it's weird living in New York because you'll be walking by with your kids from a park and you'll be like, oh, Christ, I performed in that Mexican restaurant when I was 23.
Right.
I think I didn't start till I was 26, but I'll be like, I performed in that restaurant.
Right.
There's so many nooks
so
and
many
crannies.
tiny places. But I always remember that early, and I have a clear memory from that Del Soma's, one night at Del Soma's. And I always tell people about this because it really I think it says a lot about you as an artist, because we were just all young starting, and I was like screaming my jokes, and I would like kind of like lunge and scream, and I just didn't want to hear any silence, and everyone was like, just trying to kill. It was just like, how do we just kill? And I remember you up on stage at Del Soma's, and you were just bombing.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like looking down, and you're doing a little bit of your commenting in your quiet voice on your jokes.
Yeah.
And you're just making like weird noises. It wasn't really fleshed out at all. And you're just kind of like making weird noise and kind of looking down and doing your own thing. And Geraldo and I were just laughing hysterically. We just thought you were so funny, and the audience had no clue what was going on. And I always remember, like, a lot of comedians would go through that kind of experience and be like, "Well, I'm not doing that anymore because but you really believed in what you're. I don't know if you were conscious of it, but it seemed to me like you always just believed in what you were doing, and it's almost like the audience came to you rather than you going to the audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's strange because I think, when you look back on those days of, Geraldo and, Sam Brown. I mean, I don't know what Sam Brown's doing now, but
I saw him.
Is he still muscular?
A little.
And I just remember thinking, I remember when I started, I had no expectation. Like, I just wanted to do stand-up on Letterman. Like, I wanted to, I was like, I'll just get on Letterman.
Yeah.
And there was, and everyone was, we were all kind of figuring out our styles. And, my Jeannie showed me, I have these videotapes. She said that in one, I was smoking. And I was doing like a 5-minute set, and I would go up smoking. And I look even more white bread than I do now.
Right.
And she said it was just so surreal to see this guy in khakis smoking with these horribly ugly glasses. And
I remember the glasses.
Still with kind of a whiny Midwestern voice going. But I think the influence of Attell was so strong that it would be like, I was jerking off last night. And she just said it was so strange to see me smoking and the words coming out of me that just didn't fit my point of view whatsoever. So there is something of how you end up with the style. Like, you seem like, I mean, I always imagine you pretty consistent, but then you say, you were yelling at one point.
Oh, I had tight jeans, and I was 30 pounds heavier. I had long curly hair, and I literally would do this thing where I would lunge like to the side. Like, I would actually bend one leg and kind of lunge my jokes. It was so bad. My friends saw a videotape of me, and they're like, "It looks like your crazy brother doing stand-up." And I would come up with beer. I would bring up
you're up there for 5 minutes. You need a beer.
That's right. Oh no, I wasn't consistent at all.
There's just these stories of Jon Stewart walking on at the Cellar and immediately being good. Have you ever heard those stories?
Yeah, just being and Chappelle.
Yeah,
just being
boom.
Yeah, I get that. There's probably some truth to some of those people, but I don't think it's very rare.
And then there are people that when we were starting, you worked at these rooms, and there would be a guy who would do stand up for the first time, who was amazing, who was good, and then they were just horrible afterwards.
I know. There was this one girl that used to do all those bringer shows that we would do at Stand Up New York, and she was kill. And I'm like, what happened? Where'd she go? She was just so funny. Well, maybe she wasn't. It was just the environment.
Yeah,
so
maybe she had 90% of the audience.
It was all her friends.
But it's weird. It's weird thinking about the style of comedy, because then you want to challenge yourself, and then I'm sure you get the clean comic.
Yeah,
which it feels a little bit like an indictment.
It does.
It's the clean comic, which is code for anti-women's rights or something. It's just absurd. You're like, it's not as if I don't curse in everyday life, but it's not necessary to curse if you're talking about a hot dog. I just don't. If you're doing observational material, it's not necessary to bring up butt fucking. You know what I mean? It's just like,
I know exactly, and I always feel like the clean thing is when people hear clean, there's some segment of the population that thinks, "Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I respect that," and there's another half that thinks, "Well, then it's not that funny."
Yeah,
right. Well, then it's safe, and it's not going to be challenging. It's not going to be whatever, and that's kind of a curse, because
totally.
Because you're clean. Brian Regan's clean. Mitch Hedberg was clean.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with trying to be clean. It was just that's just
people,
your voice.
I think people get too much credit and for the type of comedy they do. It's like, I don't know David Cross that well.
Right.
But I know him well enough to know that that's the type of stand-up he should be doing.
Right, exactly.
It's not like he's like, I'm going to challenge myself and be outspoken.
Yeah.
It's like David is,
Yeah.
he is who he is, and that's the type of comedy he should be doing.
That comes out of him.
It's not like he's like this Bible salesman who's like, you know what, I'm actually going to try and work the envelope here.
Right.
But it's very
Do you find that is there anything at this point in your career, because this is kind of, as we look at George Carlin up on the wall, there's definite levels. If you're going to be around and to be a comedian your whole life, you do what you do to get to this point, right? Which is a lot of scrambling early days and then your first success and all that kind of stuff. And is there anything like creatively that's in the back of your mind right now, like that you want to challenge yourself with, or do you feel like you just want to build on what you're doing, or
in stand-up?
Yeah.
I think there is a desire to evolve. I think that I'm probably my sense of humor is a little bit darker than my act.
Yeah.
So I would like to move some of that, but I also think that if you you don't want to preach to the choir, meaning and I also don't want to. I never wanted to be an us and them guy. It's like, what's great about us? We hate those people,
right?
Which always gives me the willies. That's not to say that I don't indulge in it in a small private conversation.
Right.
It's just, and I'm not trying to say that comedy or art should be enlightening or anything like that. It's just, there's just something kind of icky about it. It's not necessary.
Right. It's excluding.
But again, it's not some. I mean, I would like to challenge a little bit more some of what I talk about, but it's like I never thought I'd be talking about food as much as I talk about. It's just,
it's so funny.
I didn't want to talk about my kids, and now I've got this new 5 minutes on my kids, which is funny, but it's also, I just remember when I was starting and I saw like people talking about their wife and kids, and I remember thinking, it's great, I can't get a date, and this guy's talking about his wife and kids.
Right.
It's like,
but I kind of found that, I kind of just started spitting out all that stuff, wife and kids stuff, in the last several years because of how I'm living, and also I started doing the marriage ref, and so a lot of my brain was in that. And then it became almost challenging. Well, how do I make this relevant and cool to everybody that's coming?
Right.
Like how it's one thing for it to be resonate at like a corporate gig, but then to be at the Laugh Factory on a late show,
right?
With 18-year-olds. Yeah. And then you start seeing, I can talk about this subject, but you just can't talk about it in a certain way. You know what I mean? That
you can't be the mom comic. Every couple of years, there's always, I'm a mom and it's hard. There's always a mom comic. Like, moms, husbands are lazy and a pain in the ass. I'm a mom comic. Woo! Mom. My kids, mom.
Right. Exactly. So. There's definitely a way to do it. But it's funny how many times you'll come back to the same subjects, too, from even when you started. And I see it even like with comics, that are established, Cosby, Seinfeld, whatever. There's always like, you can find like early jokes of their career, and now like at 60 years old, they still touch on the same subjects.
Yeah.
I find that like you want to kind of break into other ground, but then you're like, but a fat joke is really pretty natural to me for some reason.
It's strange.
How was the Broadway thing?
The Broadway thing was very interesting. It was very cool. It was.
You look like such an actor when those promo shots.
Theater.
All these serious people.
Yeah, I know.
Jim looking serious. I was like, wow.
It was. But it's, I think everything is. I call everything in the entertainment business the Montreal effect. It's always. you know, when you're a young comic, you're like, well, Montreal, that's where the Wizard of Oz lives, right? And then you get there and you're like, oh, it's very nice. It's great. It's a great gig to do.
Yep.
But it's not, you know, there's not some, we'd like to invite you in this room where you'll never have to deal with any horse shit again.
Welcome to show business.
Right. You finally made it. You could take off those shoes. You're floating now. So there was, you know, there's good and bad.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fulfilling to get an opportunity to act in a play like that.
Yeah. That's got to be cool to be like.
It's very strange. It's, you know, Broadway is a very strange world, and I didn't realize this. I always thought that the straight plays, meaning the non-musicals, would be. I had the myth that I had was that everyone in the audience were going to be these intellectuals,
right?
You know, like they weren't going to wear top hats, but they were like, well, let's see. I just read Eugene O'Neill this afternoon, whereas it was. And not just the audience, because the audience is great, but I thought the audience was going to be all people with like Channel 13 bags,
right? The New Yorker under their arm,
right? And
it's tourists,
which is fine. It's a lot of tourists,
right? Even
for straight plays. You know, people are excited to see Kiefer Sutherland and Chris Noth and Jason Patrick and Brian Cox, but there was something about the Broadway world where the Broadway elite, meaning the tastemakers of Broadway,
right?
I was shocked that they were dismissive of the play in a way.
Oh, they were?
Meaning, you know, you can like something, you can not like something,
right?
But usually it causes a conversation,
right?
Like Louis C.K.'s first show,
right?
People liked it, people didn't like it, but it caused a lot of conversation,
right?
So the play I was in, I was like, some people are going to like it, some people aren't going to like it, but at least they'll discuss it,
right?
But they were like, we're not even going to discuss it.
Oh, really?
I mean, it got good reviews. But
I know what you mean.
There was something about.
It wasn't having an impact.
The whole zeitgeist of the entertainment industry is very confusing to me, where they'll be like, Cindy Crawford is our favorite actor, and you're like, well, but wait a minute, isn't she a model? And
right.
So it's very strange, and there's a little world in the Broadway. The Broadway world is a little. It's just like the stand-up community. It's a little world, and it's this play about like five, straight Catholic guys from Pennsylvania.
Right.
They're a little bit like, we're not interested at all.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting.
And then you start to feel that probably right at the onset when the reviews first come out and you first open. And then was it frustrating, like, because you're not going to start becoming part of the conversation later in the run? Yeah, did it affect the run, or did it affect your mind when you were?
No, it's that didn't affect it. It was just that's probably the thing that I shouldn't be talking about, but that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, because you're learning about how
in the stand-up world, you sit there and you watch and you see and you can understand why someone's becoming big or why they're successful. Right. You go, all right, well that makes sense because of this and that.
Right.
But in the Broadway world, it's the same way. Not that I understand or know the Broadway world that well, but. It's interesting because I always thought that straight plays were supposed to challenge people.
Right.
And in a way, they're not. Mm-hmm. In a way, they're supposed to be what people are comfortable with.
Interesting.
I mean, in my opinion.
Right. Would you do another one?
Yeah, I would probably do another one. If it was, I mean, the role I had was amazing, so I don't know if I'd get another opportunity, but if it was a good role, I would.
Would you
do a play?
I would. I would definitely do a play.
Yeah,
for sure. I like acting.
Yeah,
acting's fun.
It is fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like it. Are you doing any films now?
Nothing planned. I mean, I would love to, but
yeah, me neither.
It's
you want to do one?
People are always like, stand-up must be so hard. I'm like, compared to the acting thing, it is a cakewalk.
Thank God we're comedians. I couldn't imagine not having a gig in between a gig. Like you could always go do a set, when you don't have an acting role. Right. Imagine if you couldn't.
I think it's really hard.
Really hard.
I think it's really hard, and I think. Just the process of auditioning is way more humiliating than bombing.
That's a very good point.
You
It
know?
really is.
Like when you don't like
a
an
bad
audience,
audition. Yeah.
You don't like an audience in stand-up, you might get off stage and you're like, I didn't like them. But by the time you walk out of the club, you've forgotten about it.
Right.
You're like, well, they don't deserve any more of my night.
Right.
But an audition, you can spend 5 hours, 6 hours,
Yeah.
maybe even a couple days working on an audition.
Yeah.
Then you go in. And you're never met with, that was perfect, you got the job.
Never.
There's no immediate feedback like, great idea for a joke, Tom. Here's a laugh. It's always, yeah, thanks.
Yep. That's it.
And it usually just it melts away.
Melts away. You just don't hear that. You never hear no. You just never.
It went a different way.
Right. Yeah. I know. Whenever I get to a point where I have to call my agent and say, "Hey, whatever happened to that?" It's like I almost can't stop myself from asking, but I know just by asking that means you didn't get it.
Well,
they would be coming to you.
I also am so paranoid. I'm like, hey, did you guys call? Maybe if you call,
right.
that will. They're like, yeah, you know what? We wanted to offer it to him, but your agent never called. So it's just absurd. It's absurd. But I think as comedians, we're spoiled by having some control over creative fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. Seinfeld always tells this funny thing when he was doing his show that when actors would come in to audition, you could tell they've been preparing for this their entire lives. And when a comedian comes in to read for the same role, you've ruined his whole afternoon. Because he knows he has a gig that night. It's like, I could get this role, but,
Right.
You're listening to Come to Papa, and I'm Tom Papa on Sirius XM 99, and I'm here with my good pal, Jim Gaffigan. Hi.
Hi.
Talk to me about basing your career out of New York. You you never really, because I'm kind of going back and forth with this.
I love New York, and I figure it's more difficult here, so why not do it here?
Let me have 90%
of all the work is in L.A. I have 4 kids. I live in a 2-bedroom. I don't know. I like the energy of New York. I feel when I'm in L.A., I lose some of my energy.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel I don't know. It's like some of my things about L.A. are, I don't like golf. Right. It's like the things that people are like, well, you can get up and you go jogging. I don't care about that. Right. It's like you can go to the beach. I'm like, no, thanks. So, but there's also something of a New York attitude.
Yeah.
That I think, and there's the subway, there's like diversity. You can have friends that are not in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure all these things you can find in LA, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know.
But I think LA, I go crazy.
I do too. I don't, and it may be just a complete bias because we started our creative lives here.
Yeah.
And you got kind of used to working here or whatever. But when I don't hate LA. I have my place there and, but when I'm there, I was just there for a week, and I literally get a little batty. I don't know what to do in between doing my set.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the time, I don't, because there's no stimulation. I'm just standing there in my room.
And that's more about us than LA, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe, I don't know. I drink more there.
Yeah.
Alone in my kitchen.
Study.
Yeah, I do. I'm like waiting around for 5 o'clock, like I'm a retiree.
Well, and I think that a lot of people, for me, understanding my psychology, I mean, I'm pretty crazy.
Right.
I mean, I'm.
Are you?
I'm very aware that I'm crazy. So
you always seem so together.
I'm, not really, but I'm kind of. There's something about LA that is, there's a hierarchy built into the acting industry that, I mean, it exists in stand-up.
Sure.
I'm the beneficiary of some of that now.
Right.
But in acting, there is this false hierarchy, and, it's like there's a caste system, it's, you're a comedian, and comedians are here, and then but if you're a really good looking comedian, you're here, and if you're like I mean, it's flattering when someone is impressed by me, but there's also in LA there's a little bit of like I just feel like I'm always being put in a level, and I know that's more me than them. No,
but it's also a reflection, like, because you're feeling the same thing that I think agents and casting people are feeling as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it becomes a real thing.
Yeah.
I think that, if there's a role out there,
yeah,
you're kind of a victim of whatever that is.
And I think you can live in a certain amount of denial in New York, whereas in LA, you know exactly where you are in the entertainment business.
That's really funny.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally. Because you drive around LA, you're passing the studios. You know there are things being shot behind those walls.
Right.
You're driving to a golf lesson.
Yeah. And there's I just feel as, like also sunshine attracts certain people that are not me. Like Florida, people love sunshine.
Right.
People, Arizona, people love that sunshine. Yeah. And I'm just someone who just is not interested in it. I mean, I like nice days, but for me, it's just this guilt trip. It's like, why aren't you outside kayaking? I don't want to go out there. I want,
I want rainy days.
Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis. It's like, I like those cities.
Right.
Boston, it's like, hey, one nice day you go out to the pond. Otherwise it's like.
To the pond.
There's something.
It's good for the soul, I think.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, again, that's more about me than LA.
Do you think there would be more acting stuff for you if you went to LA?
Oh, probably. Yeah, definitely. I think,
So you think it's a conscious...
95% of all acting work is in LA, and the other 5% is in, like, Canada.
Do you go to LA for stuff? Do you kind of make a commitment to go out there for
having
stuff, or no?
So many kids and trying to, it's like trying to have priorities and trying to keep career third.
Right.
It's really one of those things where I could go out there, but then I always feel like when I go out there for a meeting, it's like, hey, if you stick around for 2 days, then, Alex Trebek wants to meet you about a show you wouldn't want to do. And so there's a little bit of a... I mean, I'd love to have a film career. I really would. But, and, in LA, you can get in the room with the director, but at what cost? And I almost feel, not to sound negative, we get to be comedians, and the bad part of that is that we're in the comedy ghetto. We are in that. We get to have the creative fulfillment of doing stand up, and every now and then someone like Zach Galifianakis will get out of the ghetto, and we'll cheer for him. And I get to do a Broadway play. It's like there's
he broke out.
It's like he got out.
Run,
bring some bread back.
Tell us what it's like.
But I don't know. I mean, it's weird. So if you had a choice, New York or LA. Because you also have to factor in your family, too, right? What does Cynthia want?
Yeah, I have to factor in the family, too. And I think they're all cool with it. And, Cynthia's great about it. She can go either way, and she came from New York. So, it's easier for her. The problem is when we're out there and raising a family, you realize how easy it is.
Yeah.
Because you have things like a normal-sized stove, or a washer and dryer.
Right.
And you open a door and the kids play outside. And I mean, for her, that kind of work is so much easier there.
Right, yeah.
But I think, it's kind of in her soul also to be in the East Coast and stuff. And I just think creatively, if everything is going to come from stand-up, and this is the better place to be a comedian, I just feel more natural here, and it may be completely because, like we said, because we started here and got in that rhythm. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's also wherever there's work. I'm shooting the show here in New York, so it's easy to like New York.
Yeah, and if the show was in L.A., but it's also scary. What if you got a job that's shot in Vancouver? Which happens.
There's a guy in our neighborhood who's in L.A. They moved to L.A. from Ohio.
Yeah.
He works on that show Psych.
Yeah.
And Tim, and he's for 6 seasons has been living in Vancouver while his wife is in L.A. And they commute, like they see each other on every other weekend, that kind of thing.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he never sees his kids.
Yeah, I don't know if that's worth it.
I know.
I mean, that's not to say what could he do.
Right.
But for me, it's like I had this offer to do, 6 lines in a movie over, I think it was 8 weeks in Alaska.
Jeez.
And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to,
right.
go up there for 8 lines.
Yeah.
And, people are like, this could lead to, 6 lines in Vietnam, too. So it's like, and I'm like, but, 8 weeks away from my, my wife and kids, it's like, and thankfully I'm in the position to say no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the cool thing. It's like when people say to you now, this could lead to blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, I've kind of have a pretty good career going.
Yeah.
I don't really, it's nice to not think that I have to take something so it's going to lead to something else.
Yeah.
You're kind of in a good space. Well, this was awesome. I'm so glad we got to sit down and and talk.
It's been an honor.
I love. Where did you get your hat?
I think I got that one at. I don't know. We went hat shopping, Jeannie and I, one day. This was J. Crew.
Wow, fancy.
Fancy. You know what? I got a hat at J. Crew, and I got a hat at Banana Republic, and the Banana Republic one fell apart immediately.
It did.
No, well, it's stretched out. It's like...
You ever go to like a real hat shop, like JJ's Hat Shop on Fifth Avenue?
No.
In the 30s, like 31 or something?
Is it
It's like a real like old-time hat place. You go in there's all like old black guys wearing different kind of hats.
Yeah.
And you just and it's very intimidating. But
is it cheaper or is it...
No, much
It's
more
more
expensive. You get like a J. Crew hat for like
Here, you can pay $140 for this.
Yeah, you're like, no, there's like you can spend $200 on a hat.
Well, hats for bald guys are kind of like sunglasses. You don't want to spend that much because you're going to lose it, right?
Right, exactly.
Or my son's going to put a lollipop on it. It's like I had these shoes for like a day, and there's like someone dripped a popsicle on it, and I'm like, why do I even bother?
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I'm glad your home life is good and messy, and I can't wait to hear your new hour on kids.
Oh, well, thank you.
These kids, Jingle, this is all I can think of.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, there it is. I hope you liked the interview. For more, subscribe to SiriusXM at SiriusXM.com and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Send me messages. Try and pick me up. Whatever it is you do. You're a weirdo. See you next time.